is a great man. Alex Francoeur is a brave man. Alex Francoeur is one of the most handsome. I can't read your handwriting. I knew this was going to happen. Well, thankfully, I prepared my own speech. Hi, everyone. My name is Partynski. Our name is Alex Francoeur's best man. I'm technically sharing the title of best man with his younger brother, Michael. Good job, Mike. I still would like to take this time to thank all of the other nominees in the best man category. It was undoubtedly a difficult decision for Al, because he's always managed to surround himself with some very classy gentlemen. Some fellow UMass graduates, like Dan McCurdy and Chris Roldan, would have made fine selections to hold the title. Also, Al no doubt considered any male acquaintance who's ever played on the East Longmeadow Cobras youth soccer team. But alas, he chose me. Now I know what many of you are thinking right now. Who the hell is this guy? Right? Well, not to worry, extended families of Alex and Nicole. As I said earlier, my name is Partynski, and I'm Alex Francoeur's best man. You know, it's crazy to think about the first impression I had of Al compared to how I view him today. When I first met Al, he was this gigantic 18-year-old with a shaved head whose preferred choice of clothing were these tiny white tank tops, the name of which I will not mention on a video like that. Not to mention, he would walk around unintentionally with this emotionless expression on his face, which made me think that, coupled with the shaved head and the tiny white tank top, made me think that I was living down the hall from Edward Norton's character in American History X. But it didn't take long, I'll say, it didn't take long for that impression to fade, and the more I hung out with Al, the more I realized how cool and harmless he actually was. Now, I'm not going to bore you all with stories of our time spent hanging out and studying and learning at one of the hardest partying colleges in the country. But I will say that when Al met Nicole there, I was both very happy for them and very relieved for myself. Relieved, you see, because I would no longer be stuck with a wingman who thought it was just enough to be standing there smiling and looking pretty. Al finding Nicole meant that I would no longer have to hear him say things like, "Hey, I'm Al, I won best looking in high school." But I must say, it was almost beneficial to me having a wingman who didn't always know how to use words to communicate with me. Because it only made me look better, so I did not really fall into that. I didn't know Nicole early on in college. When I finally did meet her, I could tell she was a lot of fun. We would have a lot of mutual friends, so we would see each other out, and it didn't take long for us to become buddies. Right, Nicole? Al would tell me that he was talking to her a lot, and she would frequent our apartment, and every time she would leave, I would do my standard, "Al got a girlfriend" routine, which he would just laugh off as he did any of my other ridiculous bits. Come to think of it, I still do some of those bits today, which could very well explain why I didn't bring a +1 to this class. Why Al has decided to marry Nicole. She's a beautiful, intelligent, kind-hearted woman who constantly puts others before herself. In the kitchen, she's brilliant. She's crafting up some of the best tasting meals I've ever had, which is great for Al, because I can tell you firsthand, after living with him, the diet of frozen pizzas and ramen noodles is only sustainable for so long. And a lot of people don't know this. Maybe some of you here don't know this, but Nicole is really funny. She's a comedian. Like, for example, earlier today, she told me the funniest joke. She came up to me and she said, "Joe, you know your speech can only be 3 minutes long, right?" So I replied, "Oh, you kill me." If you hang out with Nicole long enough, it does not take long to see how well they work as a couple. I would never use some kind of cliche line like they were made for each other, but when you see how much they have in common, it's not that far-fetched of an idea. For example, Al and Nicole both will literally watch any new TV series that comes out. I'll be sitting there without Nicole, and all of a sudden a commercial will come on where an army of aliens is planning to attack Earth, unless Megan Fox can raise an army of werewolves to stop it. And Nicole will turn to Al and say, "Hey, that looks really good." And Al will go, "I know, right?" I'll just sit there sipping my whiskey and crying. Also, another thing they have in common is they both spent a semester in college studying abroad. I, on the other hand, spent the same semester in college studying a couple abroad. Anyway, what I'm trying to make is they make a great couple. But, with that being said, I think that they both understand that marriage can be very difficult. And sometimes, you have to compromise, and there are tough times in marriage. So for that reason, I've offered up some helpful tips for the big hairy groom to keep in mind. Number one, Al, we all know you're a computer science major. But don't forget, there's no keyboard shortcut to get out of the doghouse. And you cannot, I repeat, you cannot restart your marriage in safe mode. That's a geek joke. Where are my geeks at? Number two, it doesn't matter how much you can bench press. If you don't use those big, stupid muscles to take the trash out, there's going to be some problems. Number three, if the toilet seat is left high, then you are sure to die. And last, this one's my favorite. Just because you're getting married in a barn doesn't mean you live in one. Close the freaking door. I promise.
3 minutes.
I just want to say congratulations to Al and Nicole. I wish nothing but the best for both of them, because I truly do not know any couple more deserving of lifelong happiness. And I really, really love the both of you. And Al, if I could tell you how much you've done for me, this speech would go way longer than Nicole could ever acknowledge or say yes to. But I'll say that Al's been there for me when I needed him. And he started out as just some kid I knew from East Long Meadow. He's become one of my closest friends and someone that I consider part of my family. He's been there for me time and time again, and I only look forward to having those same opportunities to repay him in the future. You guys are great, and I love the both of you. Thank you for having me here. The last thing I want to say is to your future children, I want to give them a quick note. I just want to say to your future children, I want them to always remember this. Even if they're meeting a new auntie every other week, they can always count on their Uncle Joe.